I think that the really interesting thing about the Nintendo Switch 2 is that it's going to be completely different than what we saw with the Nintendo Switch 1 at launch, where there was a lot of, I would say, skepticism with what Nintendo was going to do and if it was going to work. You have to put yourself in the shoes of the developers. You have the Nintendo 3DS, which pretty much the third-party support completely dropped off at some point, with the exception of a few smaller third-party games here and there. But the technology in that system just wasn't really feasible for the games that people were trying to create, and with the uprising of the mobile market to where you can make way more money. So that system seemed to be off of the table for a lot of third-party developers at the time or around the Nintendo Switch was being planned and coming out. You also have to look at the Nintendo Wii U. That was a failure when it comes to the sales. The third-party game sales weren't great either, with a few exceptions here and there. So confidence in what Nintendo was going to do for their next system is at an all-time low in 2015, 2016, and 2017. But then the Nintendo Switch comes, and that does renew a bit of faith. You have the architecture that's NVIDIA, you have a hybrid platform. There were people that saw that, yes, there could be something here, but people were still skeptical overall, and that laid a part or a foundation of a lot of the decisions that we saw when it comes to big third-party developers and what they would do, plus also the innards of the system itself. Obviously, the Nintendo Switch is not the strongest system out there, wasn't even stronger than the Xbox One or the PS4 back when it released. So you can understand from that standpoint, from a technical perspective, things were going to be a bit tough for a lot of developers. But with the Nintendo Switch 2, that has completely flipped the script at this point, because I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be a far more capable system. Obviously, it's going to have modern architecture and modern techniques in order to get things done that the Nintendo Switch just couldn't do, or couldn't do very easily. And we're starting to see that quite a bit here with some of the things that developers have talked about. Now, recently there was an article from Suda51 saying that they are going to cook on the Nintendo Switch 2, and they can't wait for the system to be revealed and what's going to happen and all of that. Suda's always supported Nintendo platform since the Wii though, so that makes sense. But now we also have the Final Fantasy XIV online director who stated that he wants to have his game, Final Fantasy XIV, Dawn all the expansions, all that good stuff, on the Nintendo Switch 2, which they did kind of see that with the Nintendo Switch, but we all knew it wasn't coming to the Nintendo Switch overall. So let's get into what Mr. Naoki Yoshida had to say in an interview recently with Easy Allies, saying that he is open to bringing Final Fantasy XIV to Nintendo Switch 2 because he wants it on as many platforms as possible. So, quote, "My dream or goal, far more than 10 years at this point, is for players to be able to play Final Fantasy XIV regardless of device and be able to access the servers to go in and access the same world. We've been talking for years to bring the game on the Xbox platform, and so of course we would love to have our title available on the Nintendo platform, and we do want to continue our efforts. But it did take a lot of time. With Xbox, we literally have talked for years and is now finally coming to fruition. We will try our best and continue to work hard at it and continue our efforts. Eventually, it would be cool, something that we would love to sort of explore and make a reality one day." So there was a lot of things that went into it, but there was a problem with the Xbox release that has caused it to pretty much plummet down the sales charts to the point where it's not even really a factor at all on Xbox, is the fact that you have to have the Xbox Live paid sub for that, plus you have to sub for Final Fantasy XIV, and it was on Game Pass for I think a month or so at launch, but then it's not on there. So if you have Game Pass, you don't have access to this. I don't think a lot of Xbox fans are going to pay for Game Pass or their Game Pass Ultimate, whatever they're paying for that, or pay for Xbox Live, then on top of that, pay for this. I think that it was a mistake for them to not work out some type of deal to where if you pay for Xbox Live, you can play this online pretty much right then and there. Or if you have Game Pass Ultimate, or if you have Game Pass, you can get this and you can play it, because it's pretty much been a non-factor at this point. Now with the Nintendo Switch 2, in order for this to be a factor, I think that they're going to have to make sure that there's something with Nintendo Switch Online to where either you just pay for the sub for Final Fantasy XIV without paying for NSO, or you simply pay for NSO and you get this with it, because I do feel that will be the key for everything. But I do think that if you look at overall with the demographics of people that are buying Final Fantasy, or more like JRPGs, I think that the Nintendo Switch 2 might be more of a natural fit than Xbox, and it could be more impactful overall when it comes to the subscriptions and service. Plus, you also have to look at the competition, because there's really no major MMO that you can play on Nintendo platforms right now at this point that has any real foothold in the community. And if they can have a good deal with this on the Nintendo Switch 2, and it's awesome, I think that that can make them a ton of money over the course of multiple years that the Nintendo Switch is in the limelight. So I think that they need to just make sure that they get it done, and I think that's what he was alluded to when it comes to the other things, how long it took, and yeah, it happened, but there's still a lot of business and technical aspects to be worked out. But I think that Final Fantasy 14, I feel that this could have an opportunity if it does come to Nintendo Switch 2 and they get it done right. When it comes to the politics behind the game coming, I think that it could turn out to be incredible overall. So I'm hoping that they can. And once again, I think there's a lot of people out there that would love to play an MMO on Nintendo platform. And since Square Enix dropped the ball with Final Fantasy X, when it comes to that coming over to the West, people can't even pay for that to play in a normal type of way. I think that this game could be the one for fans, Nintendo fans, to actually pick up and play as an MMO. So what do you guys think? You can let me know, but let's talk a little bit more about the X's and O's, or more like some of the politics behind gaming, because there was an interesting article that I saw on Twitter the other day from publisher Koei Tecmo has stated that their sales targets fell short for some of their titles. This is coming from Hideki Yatsuda, and he stated that Wild Hearts, which is a Monster Hunter style of game, Rise of the Ronin, which they've stated that that is the fastest selling Koei Tecmo game, like in the time period allotted, the fastest selling, that also fell short of sales expectations. Wo Long Fallen Dynasty and Fate Samurai Remnant also sold short of expectations. So one thing that we have to note with this, because there's a lot of talk when it comes to what this is about or what happened, and we don't know what their sales expectations are for each of these games. And Rise of the Ronin is their fastest selling title, yet it's still sold short of expectations. So what are the actual expectations? And we don't know the sales numbers of any of these games. I think they did give us a little bit of an update of Fate Samurai Remnant, maybe like 300,000 or something like that. I know they gave us a little bit of a sales update, but we didn't really get much from that. But all of these games are missing a platform or two depending on the game. If you look at Wild Hearts, obviously there's no Switch version of that game. You look at Rise of the Ronin, that is exclusively on the PlayStation 5. You look at Wo Long Fallen Dynasty, no Switch version of the game. And Fate Samurai Remnant, I think there's no Xbox version of the game. Now, if you look at all of those, obviously one platform or two isn't going to all of a sudden completely change the fortunes of each of these games and make it to the point to where they're outstanding successes. But I do feel, based off of a couple different things, I think maybe like Rise of the Ronin, that type of game being exclusive on PlayStation, I'm not sure if it's on PC or not, but I want to play the game because it looks pretty cool. But that's the type of game that if you're going to do something like that, you probably need multiple platforms. If you're going to have that type of Assassin's Creed style of game, or, you know, more like Ninja Gaiden with open world, right? That's kind of like what Rise of the Ronin is. It's not quite wholly action and all that. It's got a lot of other mechanics to it. It's got a lot of different stuff. So I'm not trying to say it's one thing or another, but like a game like Rise of the Ronin probably would be better off as a multi-platform game. And if you can get a Switch version of it, cool. Or if you can get a Switch 2 version of it, cool as well. But there's also the factor that I'm pretty sure Sony paid for publishing and exclusivity rights for that game for some time period or whatever. So it not reaching up to sales expectations is obviously falling on top of Koei Tecmo, but also Sony as well. But the time that that game released, it released, I think, in March of this year. And that was in the middle of a lot of different games, or close enough to a lot of different games that were coming out the month before. You had a ton of titles, whether it was the Yakuza Like a Dragon game, you had Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as well. Stellar Blade was the month after, so it was kind of sandwiched in between a lot of big titles. So I don't think that helped it out overall. Wo Long was interesting because, you know, with that game, I think they had a Game Pass deal. They had PC, they had PlayStation, but once again, with no Switch, I mean, you're really cutting yourself short a bit. But from a technical perspective, that definitely would have been hard to get on the platform. So it's tough to say exactly who's at fault or what's going on. Wild Hearts is a game that comes from the EA, their Origins creative label, to where they look at smaller titles or other things and then publish those. So, I mean, I guess when it comes to Wild Hearts, I'm not exactly sure what went wrong with the game. It reviewed okay enough, but it kind of was just seen as a poor man's Monster Hunter for a lot of people out there. And once again, no Switch version also really hurts too with that type of game. Monster Hunter games or Monster Hunter style games are popular on Nintendo platforms, so I think that's probably what hurt that one. Overall, I mean, it's one of those things to where you can't really pinpoint a number of different things. I see some people trying to say, oh, well, it was this or it was that, and it's like, not really. If you really just break down each one of these games, Fate Samurai Remnant is just a game that it's cool. I played it, I thought it was fun, but that's not going to have a large appeal. But even maybe they knew that, I'm pretty sure they knew that, but I don't really think that these games, when they came out and everything, like, there's just so much competition, there's just so much stuff, so it's tough to really kind of pinpoint exactly what happened with each one of these games, especially with Rise of the Ronin. Outside of the whole multi-platform thing, them saying, hey, this is their fastest selling title, and it having pretty good, you know, legs in the Japanese sales charts just wasn't necessarily enough. So we'll see. I think right now, if anything, man, if there's one thing to note with some of these games, is that the Switch 2 is desperately needed. We need a shot in the arm, because we're starting to see quite a number of developers say, hey, we're not hitting our sales targets, or there's issues here, or there's issues there. And I think that the Switch 2 being stronger, being better when it comes to what it can offer over the Switch, to where some of these multi-platform games can perform better, or some of these games can come over to the platform, they can get more of a foothold in Japan and other places. I think that's going to be a huge benefit to the Japanese industry. So Nintendo needs to work on that, and hopefully they have a good plan set for the reveal for this year, or at least a bigger announcement than a full-on scale reveal of the pricing and everything else for early next year. The sooner they can get it done, the better, but you don't want to rush it when it comes to Switch 2. But when it does finally come out, I think that that's when we're probably going to get the shot in the arm, and there's going to be more of a leveling or better sales overall, especially of Japanese titles like these ones here that are available to actually come over. Rise of the Ronin is a little bit of a different circumstance here. So very interesting overall. But something else that's interesting is this never-ending back and forth when it comes to Beyond Good and Evil. What is happening with this game, and why does it seem like this game has been rumored for forever and it's still not out? Well, it seems like the 20th anniversary patch has been discovered on the PSN back end. So more evidence has emerged for the Beyond Good and Evil 20th anniversary edition, and it seems like it's going to be ready to launch sometime soon. So the Beyond Good and Evil 20th anniversary edition patch 1.01 has been discovered on the PlayStation Network back end, MyNintendoNews is writing. Now, this follows the news from recently that the entire Beyond Good and Evil 20th Anniversary Edition PlayStation trophy list has now been published, and it seems likely that the game will be announced during the limited run game showcase on June 20th, or potentially even the June Nintendo Direct that people are making endless videos on when it comes down to it. So I do think that is very interesting. Now, if you look at the patch 1.01 notes, you can see here you have implementation of new features, anniversary gallery, speed run mode, skip cutscene, autosave, visual improvements, texture rework, 3D model rework, performance optimization. You've got bug fixes, overall stability of the game, rework of the camera, SFX reintegration, and VFX reintegration. So it's definitely happening. This didn't just randomly appear. This is stuff that would happen with the re-release of the game. So it does seem like, yeah, maybe the limited run game showcase coming up pretty soon here as of the time that I'm recording, or potentially the June 18th Nintendo Direct that people are talking about as well. That's the new rumor when it comes to that. So we'll have to wait and see on it. But let's get into the next thing here when it comes to development, and let's talk about the next mainline Shovel Knight game. And this is interesting because Shovel Knight has been a staple. It almost feels like it's its own indie version of Mario Kart or Grand Theft Auto 5, because it's been around for like a decade at this point, and finally we're going to get a brand new mainline Shovel Knight game that has been announced. It's not going to be a side story, a digging game, or some other type of thing, or puzzle stuff, or anything, or an expansion to the Shovel Knight game. It is going to be a brand new game that takes things in a new direction. And Yacht Club Games said this, quote, "A brand new mainline Shovel Knight game is in development," said Yacht Club Games founder Sean Velasco in the announcement. "We're committed to crafting an experience that not only honors the Shovel Knight legacy, but also pioneers groundbreaking, innovative gameplay mechanics. This isn't just another sequel, it's a bold new adventure that will launch Shovel Knight into an entirely new dimension of gaming." Velasco continued with, "Although we're not quite ready to unveil everything just yet, rest assured the game will bring electrifying action, richer mechanics, and all the timeless charm you'd expect from a Shovel Knight title. And for those of you eager to uncover what's coming next, you might find subtle clues scattered throughout our previous games. Make sure to play Shovel Knight Dig, Shovel Knight Pocket Dungeon, and all the games in the treasure trove to notice the hidden details we've planted." So I am going to pass that awesome responsibility to all of you guys, the viewers, because you guys are just so much better than me when it comes to seeing these things in there. So you guys replay those games and let me know what you find so I can report on it, because I'm not going to replay all of that to get little subtle clues hidden behind some piece of dirt or behind some type of thing that flashes for 2 seconds or something. No way, Jose. But yeah, it's all good. I'm looking forward to this because Shovel Knight was a revolution for indie titles when it came out back in 2014. So yeah, what do you guys think? You guys can let me know. I'm looking forward to seeing how they do it. Seems like it's going to be potentially even a 3D game, but I think it might be 2D game with some 3D elements, but we'll see how it all works out. But I want to see how this game works out, and it's called Lollipop Chainsaw. We've got an official confirmation. This was an Xbox 360 PS3 title, but the interesting thing is that it's actually coming to Switch. This is the first time ever that Lollipop Chainsaw has been on a Nintendo platform. So Lollipop Chainsaw Remake, Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP, will officially launch for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC via Steam on September 25th worldwide for $49.99 and September 26th in Japan for 6,490 yen. Dragami Games announced it will support English and Japanese voiceovers and English, Japanese, French, Italian, German, Spanish, Latin American, Spanish, Brazilian, Portuguese, and traditional Chinese texts as well. Now, physical editions of Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP will be available in October worldwide, with more information to be announced at a later date. Gematsu is writing here. Now, in Japan and Asia, physical editions will be available for PlayStation 5 and Switch day and date with the digital release. Now, I do want to go over a little bit more of this game because it's a very interesting and weird game. I always thought it was. I did not play it back in the day when it came out, just because I'm like, this isn't my type of game. But I saw it kind of built like a cult following online when it comes to people talking about it, like on N4G back in the day or on the message boards. So let's hear about it. Lollipop Chainsaw RePOP is a remake of the original Lollipop Chainsaw from 2012, on which Yoshimi Yatsuda lead development as producer. RePOP is a definitive version of the game, which leaves the story unchanged with focus on quality of life improvements and additional gameplay content. Watch Julia, a descendant of zombie hunters, as she fights alongside her boyfriend and family to stop a zombie apocalypse starting in her high school in Juliet's 18th birthday. The quality of life improvements to this game is that the resolution of the game has been increased to full HD and load times have been greatly shortened. The chainsaw action has been sped up with the introduction of the chained hits hunting system, in which chaining multiple hits in succession increases the player's attack speed. The input timing for combo actions has been adjusted to better fit players' expectations, whatever that means. Chainsaw blaster actions has been improved with the addition of auto lock and auto fire modes that can be toggled, and increased maximum ammo count of 99. The player can now immediately use combo actions at the start of the game. All right, I like that. Additional gameplay content has been added in, like from the separate original mode, RePOP adds RePOP mode, which uses a unique and colorful pop art inspired art style for damage effects. Okay, that's pretty cool. Unique chainsaws with distinct different features have been added. There are 30 costumes, more than the original game's costume count, combined with the additional of 4 new hair colors and 4 new chainsaws. This adds up to 750 different possible combinations. Gotta love the marketing team for that one. Now, Juliet's room has been expanded with more features, a time attack mode with ranking feature has also been added in. So it looks like they added quite a bit of stuff here for Lollipop Chainsaw, so fans can get excited to dig into that. Now, I might check it out. I'm not really sure. I think that this RePOP stuff, when it comes to Lollipop Chainsaw, looks cool. Looks like it's going to be a much better game. I'm not exactly sure what the Metacritic scores or what the thought was when the game came out. It seemed more of like a niche or core base that's going to resonate way more with the fans than the actual like journalists and people reviewing the game. But overall, I think this is nothing but a good thing to bring back some of these games that are stuck on older platforms and you can't play them, or for sometimes you can't play them. I think maybe Xbox 360 backwards compatibility. But outside of that, it's good to bring it back. So this is definitely a good thing, and bringing it to new platforms too. The Switch gets a version of this game. It never had it before on the Wii or the Wii U or anything. So that's also good. So what do you guys think overall when it comes to all the different topics here with Final Fantasy 14 and with what's happening with Koei Tecmo? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out our other Nintendo Switch and RPG videos right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.